everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'm painting Kid Rune, Little Rune. He's a little cutie. He's a Fairyland Minifee Seorin, and he's already been color matched to the body I dyed to match the color I dyed and painted his adult version, which strikes me as a kind of convoluted explanation, but oh well, that's where we are. He was sealed with Mr. Super Clear for the first layer, but for the later layers I ended up using Vallejo matte varnish with my airbrush because it got really rainy out and I needed to be able to seal the doll indoors. I almost always start with the brushwork, and this guy's no different, so I began painting some eyelashes with brown Arteza gouache. I've had this gouache out on my ceramic palette for months now, and I just keep using and reusing it for face-ups. It's amazing how far a tiny dot of paint goes. It reactivates with water if you let it sit for a bit. I use a flow aid mixture to reactivate since that's how I thin my paints. The flow aid is good for reducing surface tension, so you get much smoother lines. Anytime I need to touch up mistakes or clean up lines that aren't quite right, I use regular water. Because this doll is heavily airbrushed, any wet spots look pale because of the water soaking into the acrylic paint, even through the sealant, so it's a little bit of a nervous painting process. I worry a lot about it not tolerating mistakes well, but the Vallejo acrylics I use to color match this head are really durable, so it's not too bad. This ended up being one of my shortest face-ups because I decided to keep it pretty simple. I'm still exploring what I want to do stylistically with eyebrows. I'm pretty happy with how I usually do eyelashes, but I feel like brows are never quite where I want them to be. But since this doll is just a kid, he doesn't need anything super detailed or complicated. I use the same brown for the brows and lashes, the eyelid crease lines, and the crease between the lips. I use black gouache to line the upper eyelid, but since I want a more masculine face-up, he doesn't get a clear upper lash line or eyeliner or anything like that. I felt like once I started painting his mouth, it looked a little more sad than I wanted, so I put more emphasis on the corners of his mouth, dragging the paint upward a bit to create a little hint of a smiley expression. There was some old staining between the lips that didn't come out when I cleaned the doll and didn't quite cover with airbrushing, but this pretty well covers it, so no big deal. After I was done with the lines, I sealed him well with the Vallejo matte varnish. Then it was on to blushing. I've mostly been using my Mungyo pastels for blushing lately, and I really like how nicely they powder and blend, not just on the head, but also in the palette, which lets me get unique color mixes for pinks and purples that work nicely on a tan doll. The pastels on the palette are actually the same powders I prepared for doing Adult Rune, so I know they're a perfect match. Shortly after I completed this face-up, I was able to find a sleeping head secondhand, so I'm a little bit disappointed that I won't be able to do them at the same time. Hopefully once the sleeping head arrives and I can work on it and airbrush it to match, I'll be able to replicate this face-up pretty well. At least with sleeping heads, you don't have to worry about them having the same expression or anything like that. One thing I've been trying to do is soften the way I do brows a little bit when I use pastels, because I feel like on small dolls they can be a little overpowering. I blush them with the brow color as normal, but then I use some of the terracotta and peach colors that I use for skin shading to soften the look. I use a little bit of lilac purple below the eye at the inner corner, and more peachy tones around the eyes otherwise. The lips are a mix of lilac, pink, and kind of a purple mauve color that I feel looks really nice on this shade of tan, at least once it's a couple layers thick. Unlike the adult version of this character, I added some pink blushing to his cheeks and his chin along the way, just to give him more of a childlike, rosy look. I do the lower eyelid in pink, but because he's pretty dark after airbrushing, I started first with a super light pink that looked almost white, because that gave me a cleaner, brighter base color to start from when I put on the darker pink. I used the pencil straight on the lower lid, but then used a wet paintbrush to blend it better, and added a little pink pastel on top. I finished the face up with some white lines added to the lips with a watercolor pencil, and then I'm mostly satisfied with it. Really soft and subtle, and for now I've left his lips matte, because a unique issue I ran into with this doll is the body I put him on has kind of a soft, dewy look to it, more of a satin finish, and the head is so matte by comparison that it looks like it's different colors in photos. The color match of the paint is pretty much perfect because I actually tested the paint against the body. So at some point I'm going to try to get a satin spray to add a little bit of that dewy look to this head and see if I can get it to match the body a little bit better. Any gloss I put on the lips would be messed up by a satin spray over the top. So for now, I settled for sealing with matte varnish and called it a day. I'll revisit this once I get the satin spray, and maybe I'll do an evaluation of how that works whenever I paint the sleeping head, so maybe it worked out better that I didn't have them both at the same time. He's mostly ready to put together now, so I'll be designing him an outfit soon. That's all for today though. Thanks for watching. Bye.